Hello, everybody, and a big thank you for taking time to join us today. I'm Robin Porter, and I've got the honour to be the Chief Executive for Luton Council. On the 20th of February 2023, Luton Council is going to be setting its budget for the next 12 months. Now, this is a statutory duty that all councils have to fulfil. Each year, we are legally obliged to set a balanced budget. Now, obviously, public services across the country are under pressure, and councils across the country are at the forefront of that pressure. And Luton Council is no exception. I'd like to thank everybody that sent in questions. I'd also like to thank everybody that came to one of our engagement events that we've been holding over the last 2 months. I'll hand over to Councillor Roche to introduce himself.
Hi everyone, my name is Rob Roche. I'm the represented member for the Limbury Ward, but also the holder of the finance portfolio at Luton Borough Council. The first thing I'd like to speak about, if I may, is about the engagement and how important engagements are, as I see it. Engagements, I believe, are really important. Any form of engagement is important with the public, and I would urge the public to get involved with any engagement, consultation, or any chance to meet a councillor. Go and they put their points across, and we have those face-to-face meetings, and we're able to explain to you sometimes, which we can't on social media, which we can't unless we're face-to-face, to get you to understand what the council's position and situation is. So I really do urge people to get involved and come across and meet us and hold your council and your councillors to account. As councillors, we are very much aware of what's going on in the UK today. We're very much aware of the cost of living, inflation, and the rising prices as we see it. And when we make decisions, the residents are at the forefront of what our consideration when we make our decisions for our policy debates. But when it comes to setting the budget, Robin's quite right. We have a legal obligation here to set a budget, and we do have to make tough decisions. And I'll be quite honest with you, decisions that we don't want to make. And sometimes you think to yourself, did I come into politics to do this? It's not what I want to do. But we have to make those tough decisions. And although we have to make them, we will make them, because we have to have a legal obligation to set a budget. Just to give you a bit of background about myself, if I may. I sort of came into politics because my view of politics is community-based. I want to work with the communities to let them have some influence, let them have a voice, let them have a say in what the council does and how the local government affects their lives. It's that old saying, let's go from the bottom up rather than the top down. In some areas, that's worked quite well. In some areas, we're still trying to do that. But that's the old reason why I came into politics, and that's why I will continue to do so if I'm managed and happy to stay in this area. So if we move on now, thank you, Robin, and thank you for the chance for letting me to introduce myself.
Thank you, Rob. Now, we've had hundreds of comments and questions sent in to us remotely, and thank you very much for those. So what we're going to do is we're going to theme those responses into 8 different themes, and we'll go through those one at a time. And we'll start with council tax. There have been a number of concerns raised about the council increasing council tax when families are struggling. Rob, can you talk us through?
Yes, thank you, Robin. This is an extremely difficult decision to make. I just spoke about having to make those tough decisions to get this legal obligation of a balanced budget, and it goes against all our instincts, my instincts, but all our instincts, goes against all of those. But again, these tough decisions unfortunately need to be made, and the government has left us with no choice whatsoever. If I can tell you, the majority of the councils nationally have increased by 5% due to the lack of government funding, and this is where the issue lies. It lies with the government not funding public services and the councils in the right manner, in the right way they should do, to allow them to operate and give good services. This year, only 11 million we received. In 2010, we received 120 million. You really need to take that into grasp and have a look at that and say, wow, how do you manage from 2010, 120 million a year, a drop to 11 million a year? That's what the funding has decreased in Luton Borough Council. The council currently ranked 55th of all the unitary councils out of 59. But in terms of the average council tax per head of population, when compared to the average of our immediate neighbouring councils, that's being Bedford, Central Bedfordshire and Milton Keynes, the council tax per population is substantially less. We know how hard this will be for many. I will urge people who are struggling to get in touch with the council, talk to your councillors, talk to any of us. We will try to make sure that you get support that you need. We have a very generous council tax reduction scheme. We have a hardship fund. We have things in place to be able to help and support people. Government has decimated public services over the last, since 2010. If you look at what's going on now, we have our nurses, we have our ambulance crews, we have our firefighters, our teachers, and that's just to name a few, all demonstrating to say, we want a good standard, a reasonable standard of living, not good, they want a reasonable standard of living, but they also want to work in an environment where they want to go to work with good terms and conditions, good retention, and being able to say, we've done a good job today. Now, that's not very much to ask for, and I really believe that the government should come forward and support these people and say, yes, we will support the public services. But the council are not immune from that position. We need to be able to have the right allocation of grant funding. And for me, this is where the problem lies. If you look at Luton's identity, if you look at our demands, if you look at our pressures, it's a London borough. But we do not get the funding of a London borough. We get the funding of a shire, which is well short of what we require to support the services and demands that we are receiving. Now, we at Luton have been trying to get the government to take a look at this. They are aware of Luton's problem, they're aware of the situation, but there is a shut, shall we say. They will not come and work with us, they will not come and do anything about it. They keep kicking this can down the road. But we will at Luton keep fighting to get the proper funding here, because where we are every year, when we're setting the budget, we're not starting at the right place. We're starting in the wrong place. We're starting with a lack of allocation of funds rather than the right funds. So I think that's what I need to say, Robin, but we will keep on fighting and we will to get this money to support the people of Luton. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. And just to put what Rob said into context, the council funds the 730 different services that we provide to the 225,000 residents of Luton through 5 sources. That's council tax, government grant, business rates, fees and charges, and commercial income. The council tax element of that revenue is only about 36%. So only 36% of the revenue that we gather comes from council tax. In other local authorities elsewhere, that will be substantially more, because they're able to raise more council tax because they've got bigger properties and more properties. I mentioned that one of our revenue sources was commercial income, and that leads us on to the second theme. And we've had a number of comments, a number of questions about the loans that the council has provided to our airport company. People making comments of whether that money could be spent on services, and why we spent money on projects such as the DART and airport expansion. So I'm going to kick off on this response, and I'm going to make three main points. First, the importance of commercial income. Second, why we are investing. And the third, the impact of that investment. I've just mentioned that commercial income is one of the 5 sources of income that we receive. In fact, we receive more income than through commercial sources than we do through council tax. Pre-COVID, Luton Council was the second most successful council in the country at generating commercial income. That helped to protect services for Luton's residents. So it's a vitally important source of revenue for Luton. Why are we investing in the airport? As you will know, the airport is ultimately owned by Luton Council. It's operated by a separate commercial company, but it's ultimately owned by Luton Council on behalf of the residents of Luton. It's our duty to maximise and optimise that asset. The airport operates in one of the most commercially aggressive systems in the world. The London aviation system is hugely commercial, and there's a huge amount of competition between the 5 airports of London. Our airport from 2012 to 2019 was the fastest growing airport in the country, and the fastest growing in that system, because of the work that we do with the operator and because of the investment that's gone into the airport. I'm going to share a slide with you now just to put that into context. So to talk through this slide, on the left-hand side, you've got, this is a bar chart, and you've got the income that we received back in 2012-13. It then skips through to 2019 and shows you the income that we're due to generate through to 2026. On the left-hand scale, it goes from 0 up to 50, and then from 0 down to -20. Above the line, so above 0, that's the income that the council receives. Below the line is the cost to the council of generating that income. And the different colour parts of the bar chart show the different elements. So what this bar chart shows on the left-hand side is that in 2012-2013, the council received something in the order of £7 million of revenue. And that was before we started investing in the airport company. Skip forward to 2019, and you can see that that revenue had massively increased. Now, even with COVID, this financial year, we're expecting to generate £43 million of revenue from the airport, £43 million. And that cost to the council is £15 million. That means that for 23-24, we will have £28 million of revenue from the airport company, up from that £7 million in 2012. That's a huge increase. And that increase has come because of the investment that we've put into growing and developing our airport. Now that money, that £28 million, that goes directly into funding frontline services. That goes into directly contributing and compensating for that reduction that Rob talked about earlier of £120 million of government funding down to 11. So it helps to fill that gap. That money is worth £335 for every household in the town. And in addition to that revenue to the council, we also, or the airport company, also gifts £73 million to our community sector. And there were a number of questions that came up around our funding and whether the airport should fund less to charities. And I'll hand over to Rob.
Thank you, Robin. Some major points there, really. I just want to confirm on a couple, if I may, which is, I knew about it, but it's not a surprise, but the second in the country before COVID in commercial income revenue. I think that's amazing. And because of COVID and the airport, it shut down, we all know what happened. We've had to try and recover the airport. It is a major asset to us. But the other thing I just want to make sure in relation to any loans that are given to the airport, it does not affect the council taxpayer whatsoever. It has no bearing on our council tax. It doesn't even come into the budget situation. It's completely outside. It's a relationship between Luton Borough Council and the airport in the loan money and receiving interest. So I just want to make sure we get that over to the public. Now, the one thing I'm really proud of in relation to the airport is our charity and voluntary sector. I have to say, for me, I've got no doubt it's the best in the United Kingdom. All our volunteers and our charity sector that work within this area to make people's lives better and to do the things they do, you see, is amazing. We have an awards a night every year, and it just brings a tear to your eye. It really does, to see how much work is going on in Luton. But they wouldn't be able to do that without this funding from Luton Rising or the airport. They would not be able to do that because the council can't support that sector the way that Luton Rising does. So I hope you start to realise the work that these people do is funded by the airport, and you can start supporting it in that way. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Rob. And just a final point on that revenue. The airport is only one source of commercial revenue, and we also have a number of property investments. We trade services with other councils, other organisations as well, and that all contributes to helping to keep down council tax in Luton and ensuring that every household benefits from our commercial activity. The third theme that we'd like to look at is frontline neighbourhood services, and we've had several comments about the general cleanliness of town, fly tipping, missed bin collections and potholes. Rob, can you take us through this?
Yeah, thank you, Robin. This is a really important issue for members too. We increased investment last year despite the financial challenges into neighbourhood services. At the moment, we are waging a war with fly tippers. It is, I don't know why, I can't really explain why people do it, but it's just something that we find terrible that's going on in this town. Now, we have actually 3 fly tipping crews that go out on a daily basis, and they are clearing up the mess that people leave. But I've really got to ask, why are people leaving this mess? Why are they doing it? We need people to take responsibility for their own actions. The council will come in, we will help, but we need responsibility done by people. So if you're listening to this, anybody does fly tipping, please take a view. Why am I doing it? You don't need to do it. It is a terrible blemish on our society and one of the major complaints that we have from residents. So if you are listening, please stop. We've invested in more enforcement officers, an investment hub and a fly tipping evidence capture crew, which I just said there in relation. But at the moment, we're up to around about 1,200 enforcement actions and prosecutions on waste crime since 2019. And this will continue to increase as a result of our additional investment. We are putting another £1 million into the investment next year. We need more people to report fly tipping. We need residents to be eyes and ears. Finding people is what will deter them. I know in my ward, I have people who literally go out, when they go out, if they see fly tipping, they will report it to me immediately because they do not want it in the society of Luton. We just don't want it here. The one thing I'm really good to see is the brilliant the leading of the community volunteers, what we just spoke about, and the litter picking that's going on around the town. It's just amazing to see these people. I mean, my ward was 20 people out the other Sunday on the River Lee, just going around litter picking. Not only is it a good thing to do, but it's just great fun. You're meeting people, you're talking to people, you're having coffee and tea, and it's just such a good thing to do. And if people want to get involved, please look on the ABCD website where you can find how you can get involved on that. In relation to the bin crews, and this has come up a couple of times really. It's also come up when people speak to me or they're not coming the same day. I will apologise for that, but I won't apologise for our bin crews because they are one set of great workers. And all through COVID, as a key worker, we all know what they've done. We all know we got our bins collected every week from these guys and women in the bin collection. So I will not apologise to them, but will apologise for not coming on the days that we said we're going to do. The issue around this is one is HGV drivers. HGV drivers, we had a problem in the country with a shortage of HGV drivers. So what do? They revenue the income of HGV drivers to pay. So a lot of HGV drivers now who are driving waste collection lorries, so bus drivers who are PSV drivers converted into HGV have moved away and gone into HGV driving, which leaves a bit of a hole. That is one thing we're trying to do, is recruit the HGV drivers. The second thing, which people really need to be aware of, is the fire at Kingsway that we just had recently. If you're not aware, we've had a big fire at Kingsway Depot, and it has restricted the crew to what they're able to achieve during the week. But the old story's there. You leave your bin out, it will get collected. But hopefully we can get back to the days that we said we're going to do it very, very quickly. Thank you, Robin.
Thanks, Rob. So the next theme, the fourth theme, were comments about reducing the salaries of senior staff and councillors. So the council is a big operation. I mentioned that we deliver circa 730 different services to our 225,000 residents. Overall, the council budget is circa £500 million a year, and the council manages assets worth in the order of £4.5 billion. The senior team have got substantial levels of responsibility and accountability, and they work super long hours on behalf of the residents of Luton. Since austerity, and Rob talked earlier about the position back in 2010, since the start of austerity in 2010, the council's workforce has dropped from something in the order of 4,200 members of staff down to 2,700 members of staff today, delivering largely the same number of services. The senior management team has also substantially reduced, and we've got approximately half the number of senior managers that we had in the council today than we had back in 2010. And in the summer of 2020, when we had to go through the process of putting in place our emergency budget, we took out a further £500,000 out of the senior management salary cost. Council salaries are negotiated nationally by central government and the LGA, the Local Government Association, with the unions, and the team are all aware that our salaries come with a high level of responsibility. Moving on to councillors, councillors don't get salaries. Councillors get small allowances to cover their attendance and the meetings and all of the work that they do. And councillors across the whole of the chamber work really hard on behalf of their wards and their constituencies. Additionally, and this is a point I don't think is widely understood, councillors don't unfortunately get pensions. So they get a small allowance and they don't get a pension in the future. So I think that your councillors, from a personal perspective, are very, very good value for money. And I'll move on to the next theme, which is events, Rob. We've had a number of comments about the events that we have in the town. Some people have said we have too many. Some people have said we have not enough. Rob, can you take us through?
Yeah, thank you, Robin. A personal view, at the moment, we don't have enough, is my personal view. Remember, this funding is coming from Luton Rising, the airport. It's not coming from the council. We are unable to fund it because we don't have the money to do that. So all this funding we have for our events in the town centre, fireworks, all comes from the airport. Now, for me, I don't think we have enough. And we have, as everybody knows, we have a massive diversity in the town. And the events, when I go to these events, I see the faces of people. They're happy, they're enjoying themselves. They're able to show their culture to people, other people who are not involved in that culture. Most pleasing thing for me last year at an event was we saw our first East Fest in the town centre, which was the first time our Eastern European community have got involved. And I thought, well, this is brilliant. This is what I've been asking for. And they've got involved, and now it's the way forward. And I hope to see those sort of events every year. So for me, the council don't pay for the events. The airport funds the events with other sponsors. And for me, it's to have more rather than less, because it does help the local community. People in the town come to the town centre. It does help the shopkeepers, the independent people there to have a good day from a revenue point of view. So for me, it's got nothing but positives. Thank you, Robin.
Thanks, Rob. And for me, it also brings a vibrancy to the town centre. And the town centre is the next theme that we're going to look at. And there are a number of comments about the town centre being dirty, unsafe, unwelcoming. So I'm going to initially respond to that before handing over to Rob. And I think it's fair to say this is something that we can all agree on. The town centre today is not the town centre that we all want it to be and that we all aspire for it to be. But we do have a very bold and ambitious town centre master plan that's been agreed across the political spectrum, and we are starting to see tangible progress. We've got the new Pocket Park, which will be open soon. We've got the Stage project, which is a mixed-use development on the Bute Street car park, for which we secured £20 million of government levelling up funds. The football club will hopefully in the next couple of years be starting work upon the stadium. On the Power Court site, we've got new public art. Antisocial behaviour in the town centre is reducing, and as Rob mentioned earlier, the council invested this year an extra £200,000 into enforcement to ensure that that antisocial behaviour continues to reduce. The change in our town centre will take time, but there is a plan, and change is happening today and will continue to happen. Rob.
Thank you, Robin. Yeah, I mean, Robin's right. 200k we're putting in for enforcement, and that's where we need to go initially. Enforcement, along with the changes that we're going to do in the town centre, will drive these people away from the town centre to an area where they know they're not going to be allowed to stay. So that's the plan initially, but there are policies in place, and we are looking at all the time how we can improve the town centre. So, I mean, as Robin says, if you can just stick with us, give us a time on this. We are aware of it. We're not immune from it. We see it ourselves every day. If we go to town, we see it. So we're not immune from it. Our eyes are not shut. It's just it will take a bit of time to have these policies to come into place, have the changes to come into place, have the proper enforcement to come into place. And then I think you will see we are dealing with that situation. So the Pocket Park is a start. And I hope people realise what a good investment that's been and how wonderful it looks. So thank you, Robin.
Yeah, it was great that we were able to secure European funding for that project. So it's not all Luton money. A good chunk of the money that's gone into that project came from Europe, which was brilliant to see. So moving on to the seventh theme, there have been a number of comments about council tax collection. Rob, can you take us through this?
Yeah, thank you, Robin. First thing I'd like to say really is that there has been a significant improvement in relation to council tax collections since COVID. I mean, before COVID, we were 97%, and we are getting back to that sort of level now in relation to our council tax collection. But I just want to make it quite clear to people. I mentioned earlier, we have a very generous council tax reduction system that will help people who are struggling. So please, again, I'm urging people, if you feel you're struggling with any form of council tax payments, get in touch with the council. There are things in place that will support you and hopefully take you through the problems that you're having till you come out the other end of those problems. But if you choose not to pay, because you won't pay, then the council will come after you, because that's not fair on all the other residents who are paying the council tax in relation to the services that we want to deliver, because you are still getting the services. So if you're not paying, please be careful, because we will come after you and make sure that we get that money off you. But people who generally have hardship, generally have problems, generally cannot pay for whatever reason other than won't pay, we have the support there. And I do hope you will get in touch with the council and you will find that support there. Thank you, Robin.
Thanks, Rob. And the last theme, the last set of questions were around fees and charges, and why we're increasing our fees and charges. As I mentioned earlier on, the council delivers something in the order of 730 different services. A large number of those services are universal services for all residents, but a number of the services that we provide are specific to certain groups. So, for example, not everybody in the town has a garden. So not everybody in the town needs a brown bin to remove their garden waste. So we charge for those services that aren't universal services. We only charge the cost of those services. And this year we'll be increasing the cost of those services to ensure that the revenue that we receive from those services, that's one of those 5 sources of revenue that I talked about earlier, to ensure that that revenue meets the cost of us providing those services that are distinct and bespoke to certain groups or certain areas of the town. So those are the 8 themes that we'd like to go through. I'd just like to thank people again for engaging in the budget consultation process, for coming out to the budget engagement events. It was great to be able to talk people through in more detail and to answer people's questions. I hope that you found this session interesting and useful. And just a reminder that the budget decisions will be made by the full council on the 20th of February. That's at 6 o'clock in the council chamber in the town hall. Residents are absolutely welcome to attend or watch the debate online. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. And just one thing I want to say, please, I urge people to engage with their councillors. Engage if you think you've got issues. I mean, we do see stuff on social media, and it's not good, and sometimes it's factually incorrect. So please allow us the opportunity to come and meet people and say what and get challenged and have those debates. I'll be happy to go anywhere, any place, any time that people would like me to go, even if it's going to be uncomfortable. So please just get in touch and let us know. Thank you.
Thanks all.